A very good afternoon. I'm Deepa Kiran, a storyteller, an educationist and writer. So I hope nobody's nervous. सुन लो एक कहानी, इसमें राजा है न रानी, मैं आज सुनाने आई हूँ, मैं आज सुनाने आई हूँ. तारप 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 तारारा. Once upon a time, the frogs decided that we are going to have a race. Arey, nobody looks at us. Everybody is interested in the tiger and in the elephant and in the lion. So we'll have a unique race. And this race was to climb up a fort, right to the top. All the animals came to cheer the frogs. Ooh, they went, and the frogs went racing. They went scampering up the fort. Of course, it was slippery. Chapr, trup. They kept falling off, and only few frogs continued. Now the audience which was cheering slowly realized, this is not quite a correct thing to do. And they started saying, hey, come back, get down, or you're going to hurt yourself, come back. The few who were going up, better to come back. Slowly they started sliding down. But one fellow, he kept going. Now everyone got very worried. Come back, you will die, you will fall down. Frogs are not meant to climb. This is so dangerous. No. He went climbing and he reached the top. He won the race. Everybody clapped. They couldn't help clapping. Yes, just like this. And the vulture, who was the umpire sitting on top, said, "Gentlemen, I have a question for you. When everybody was telling you not to climb, how did you still have the courage to do it?" And this winner frog said, Well, these and other stories are what I would tell my students when I taught in the central government schools in Kendra Vidyalaya. No wonder that 2-3 weeks into any new school that I went, children would walk past me and say, Ma'am, like I was some long-lost friend of theirs. And why did this happen? Simply because I had shared a story with them. I had stood there in flesh and blood and said, you know what? I value spending time with you. I like being with you. I like talking to you. And that's what storytelling does. And together, the children and I, we traveled on the wings of words. We traveled to new lands, to new places. We laughed, we cried, we got scared, we got excited, surprised. And then I brought them back safely. And so there was such a trust and a bond that built between us. This is the power of storytelling, particularly of oral narration, where you stand or sit with someone and tell them stories. I like to call storytelling as licensed and channelized daydreaming, because that's what you're doing. You're daydreaming. You're imagining the whole story, just like you imagine your trophy and the awards and the prizes. You imagine the story in your mind, don't you? It is channelized because there is a specific story that you're dreaming about, and it is licensed because you're allowed to listen to stories. Nobody tells you, chup, don't listen. They tell you, chup, don't daydream, right? So it's licensed and channelized daydreaming. It's a beautiful way of creatively visualizing and exploring ideas. We also become very open to receiving ideas. We're very relaxed when we listen to a story. Yes? Somebody says, "Pata hai kya hua?" You're waiting. There's a relaxed openness to it. This is what makes storytelling so powerful. Well, the other thing that makes it powerful is the story itself. Human beings love to make stories, love to share stories, love to tell stories. When my sister was 2 years old, she would turn to my father and say, "Appa, and the koriile enna paathu chirichidhu na blue chatta pottutikkela adnala," which means, "Father, the hen is smiling at me because I'm wearing a blue frock." That was her story about her favorite dress. All of us of all ages and all times make stories. Think about it. The cave people wrote the stories or painted the stories of their exploits on the cave walls as cave paintings. And today, what do? We click selfies and put it on Facebook wall. We're still living with stories, still wanting to share stories, because as creatures, we are programmed for storytelling. Those who are people who have mastered the art of storytelling, they know this very well. And that's why they say that storytellers rule the world. They know the power that stories have on us, while a lot of us don't. A grandfather fish was swimming past two teenage fishes, and he said, "Hello, how's the water?" And they both said, "Eh." And after he left, they said, "What is water?" The fish is living in water, so it almost misses seeing the water. As human beings, we are living in stories, so we almost miss seeing that what we live in are stories. But stories are what we use to make sense of the world. Stories are what define us. Stories are what give us roots and nourish us. However, stories can also make us hard, like dried up seeds. They can make us closed to new ideas. And therein comes the danger of stories. So what storytellers do is they make stories of everything. Storyizing a content is the way that storytellers move forward. And we love the story, so we lap it all up. Sometimes not stopping to think, what are the stories that we are lapping up? So let's take a minute. Who are those who are making the biggest stories that we take? They are leaders, they are politics, they are media, and they are huge marketing campaigns. They're all the best storytellers we have around us. They have mastered this art. And this way, they can sway us in very positive ways and influence us to take action towards something that could benefit all of us. However, it could also work in negative ways, steering us in spaces that we do not wish. I was with the Santhal tribes in Bengal, and their way of expressing happiness is sharing their food. And so they gave me their favorite snack, and just as I was about to pop it in my mouth, they said, "We hope you like it. This is upi," the interpreter told me, "and this is made of roasted ants." And coming from a vegetarian family, my hands stopped. My food story was dramatically different from their food story. What choices do we have at this point? Oh, you eat ants. That's interesting, but I may not be able to eat that. Thank you very much. Another option, oh, you eat ants. I'd like to try that. Another option is, you eat ants? How disgusting. I mean, don't you know? Ants are not what you eat. How crude, how jungly. I'll tell you what you should be eating. You shouldn't be existing because you eat ants. Well, this sounds like I'm taking a food fight to a very violent space, right? But what are the headlines we read today? Headlines of killing each other just because our food stories are different. This is how stories can influence us in not so pleasant ways. Let's go back to one of the most powerful storytellers. There's Hitler, there's Gandhi, there's Obama, there's Modi. I'd like to come back to Hitler. He will be terribly surprised if he comes to know that the DNA analysis shows that he carries 8 different races, including the Jewish race. This whole idea of a pure race has been debunked by science. And yet, there are so many of us who continue to believe in it. Let's think about why. Let's say there's a medical emergency in the family, and when you rush to the hospital, do you ask for non-Christian blood, or non-Hindu blood, or non-Dalit blood, or non-Muslim blood? No, you don't. But how come when we step out of the hospital, we remember all these definitions? Why do we work in ways that go beyond science and logic and reasoning? Reasoning tells us that we share the same blood, right? Well, we work this way because we are not programmed to respond to science and statistics. What drives us is stories and sentiments. And when our stories and sentiments are played with in not so right ways, then we ask the wrong questions. One other popular story is the beauty story, right? I'd like to make us all think about stories as frameworks, literally like a photo frame. Imagine you had a photo frame with nothing in it, and you went and placed it on a river, where the river was flowing nice and clear, and you would think, oh, what a calm river. If I held it on the waterfall, you would think, oh, what a furious, angry river. If I put a red sheet of paper and then held it over the river, you would think, what a bloody river. But it is the same river, right? Stories offer you frames, and frames, what do? They capture something and they leave something out. So that is the beauty, and that is also the danger. If we realize that these are frames, and this is one way to read what we see, then we can look for other frames. We can look for other parts of the same story, right? For example, the beauty story. There is a frame called Beautiful Woman, and inside that is fair. So all those who are not fair and are women are left out of this frame called beauty, just because somebody who's a big manufacturer and supplier has made that frame. Not only do we buy that story, we pay money, and we even buy the product that apparently offers us a solution to somehow get into that frame. These are ways in which stories can shake us. As an educator and also as a parent, I am deeply interested in getting myself and a lot of other minds to question the stories around, to ask, who is making these stories? Why are they making these stories? Whom is it going to serve and benefit? And what benefit is it going to have? If we can ask these questions, or even begin to ask these questions, I think we are in a beautiful space. One such endeavor in this space has been the History Project. In the History Project, what they have done is they get pages from the history textbook of the Indian school curriculum and pages from the Pakistan textbook of their school curriculum, and they show both these to students in India and to students in Pakistan. And what happens? The students in India say, this is correct, that is wrong. And the students in Pakistan say, no, this is correct, that is wrong. So what is the correct story? If we are asking that question, then perhaps we are asking the wrong question. The question that we should be asking is, what are the different stories that different children and different people are being told about the same event, about the same episodes, about life, about living? Because when we know another's story, then we are no longer strangers. Whether we like it or not, multiple stories are going to exist. How we choose to exist with those stories is our choice. The choice we have is just to be a little more watchful. Because we might think, oh, I am very aware, I don't get affected by all this, I know everything. So let me share a story about me. A very good friend of mine got widowed at a very young age, and unfortunately I could not meet her for almost 1 year. And after a year, when I went to meet her, I was looking forward to meeting her and the children. And she was sitting there as usual in a jeans and t-shirt and some earrings. And the first thought that crossed my mind was, why is she not there in a white sari? And I was so shocked that I thought like that. I didn't realize that all those stories that Bollywood had given me had quietly crept into me, despite all my education and my university learning and everything. Well, this is just to share that any moment we can be caught off guard. There will always be moments of truth that come up in our life when we discover, oh, I believe in this story. When our stories are challenged, when we have opportunities to accept or reject other stories. So I hope, as Elif Shafak said, like a compass, we can stay grounded and rooted in stories that define us, and yet be open to exploring all the other stories that life offers us. Thank you very much.